Transformations are for everyone.
Hey, good morning, Joey. Good evening to you, I suspect. Mick McQuillan here, tuning in from Ireland. I love being here on a Sunday morning. I know it's night for Joey where you are. But listen, I want to welcome you to the Personal Development with a Lifestyle Plan, episode 32, Born Rich. And we're going to part 4 today, which is amazing. You know, we've got through the first 3 bits. There's a lot in this stuff. But again, listen, don't forget, like, subscribe, and share. Click the notification button so that you get updated as to when Joey and I are going to be on. It's usually around about the same time every Sunday. And of course, this is No Limits, Transform Your Life. And we're going through the Born Rich remastered webinar with Bob Proctor and some of his other kind of guest speakers. And it's a lot of fun. I hope you're enjoying it too. Don't forget, you can download the workbook. Again, link is in the description. It's definitely worth doing it and going through it. And if you're just tuning in for the first time, go back to the beginning. You know, after this one, not right now, watch this one first, but then go back to the beginning. Download your workbook. You know, look, this is going to change your life, but only if you want to. So once again, my name is Mick McQuillan. I want to introduce my good friend, Joey, all the way over in Sydney, Australia. Hey, Joey.
Hi, Mike. Thank you very much for this wonderful time. It's nighttime here in Australia. You know, I think if someone asks me what is my best time in a week now, I think I have to share with them. This is one of my best time. Is my 1 hour live with my good friend all the way from the Republic of Ireland. You know, right? I have to say this for the start of our program. Ireland won their first test match against France, and it's a big win. So I'm very happy with you, Mike. You know, I think Ireland is my second team apart from Australia. You know, if I have to choose which team I follow, I have first Australia, and then Ireland is my second team. But, you know, it's so exciting. You know, I'm very happy, very grateful, my friend. Every week we make the commitment, we make the the accountability to be here, show up. And I think if I have to share one quick nugget with our viewer tonight, is always showing up. That's one thing I learned this week, always showing up. No matter what you do in life, if you can always showing up, mate, one day you're going to get it. And I think this episode, it's like going to the beach. We start from the shallow, and then all of a sudden we're getting deeper and deeper and deeper. And, mate, 32 episode. Wow, unbelievable. We come so far, and I think this is just the beginning. And I think there's a lot of more good value. We're looking forward to make an impact contribution. So if you're watching this or watching in the replay, we are so happy, proud of you, knowing that we are all here together to learn. And there's a lot of abundance in this world to share with each other. And educating is one of the ways that help a lot of successful people get ahead in life, because they make the time, they make the decision, and they make the time to come and learn, and they also share what they learn with the world. And that's why we're here. Mike, I'm looking forward to start our program tonight. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, me too. So we're going to jump straight into part 4. But again, the links are all in the description where you can get all of this information. But do download the workbook, right, and follow along with this, because if you want to, this can have an impact in your life. Joey and I have been going through the first 3 parts. It's taken some time because there's so much information in it, and it's but it's the application of that information as well. It really is the law of attraction in action. But look, this stuff is ahead of its time. Do you know what I mean? I think so. Look, we're going to get straight into it, and let's see where we go.
There's 1 or 2 key points in this seminar that I have stressed thousands of times. It's vitally important that you follow them properly. On page 26 in your action planner, it's suggested that you make a written description of the person you are about to become. I couldn't stress this enough. I've pointed that there's 2 pages in this book that can literally change your life. This is the first one. Now, what I want to suggest you do, it may seem foolish, it may seem like a fantasy, but I can assure you it works. I want you to stop and think of exactly how you would like to be, the type of person you really want to be. Write it in as much detail as possible on page 26, and write it in the present tense. You may draw on different people that you admire and respect as role models that you might want to emulate this part or that part of their personality. But make this in as much detail as possible in the present tense. Begin by writing, I am so happy that I am, and then describe the person you truly want to become in as much detail as possible. Don't go any further until that part of this exercise book is filled in. Don't spend 5 seconds wondering how you're going to become this person. Just make it very clear the person you want to become. We'll tell you later on how to execute the image. When you have that completed, turn your tape back on, and John Canary is going to introduce you to a concept of how this great power within us takes over and does what we want.
I always like to kind of get into this lesson with a particular idea, because we're into something that make a lot of people feel uncomfortable. And just to make sure that we're all in the same chapter here, we're over on page 27, where it states, let go and let God. It's a cute little story about Billy and Johnny. They were having a little bit of trouble in town on an ongoing basis. And Mom didn't know quite how to handle this. Dad had been gone for years. And if something went wrong, these kids would hide in the basement, because they would get blamed for it, whether they were involved in the activity or not. Well, Mom took a run down to the minister there, brought Billy and Johnny with her. And she walked in, she said, Reverend, I don't know quite what to do. These 2 boys are constantly in trouble. And every time something goes wrong, they get blamed for it, and I don't know quite how to handle it. Well, he said, listen, Mom, you just go on home there. I'm going to take care of this situation right now. And the way she went, he said, now, Billy, I want you to sit in the hallway here in that chair. And Johnny, I want you in my office. Well, Johnny got in there, and he sat him in that chair, and old Reverend there, he just sat back in that big old oak desk. And he looked down, and he said, now, Johnny, we're going to start with some questions. And the first one is, where is God? Well, Johnny just sat up on that chair there, started to vibrate, in a state of confusion, didn't know quite what to do. Blood vessels started to dilate, and he's trying to get a word out. He said, come on, Johnny, right now, where's God? Well, he started to spit, stamp, and stutter, whatever the case might be. And he said, Johnny, this is the last time I'm going to ask you, where's God? Well, Johnny just up off that chair and beat it down the hallway, put on the brakes, grabbed Billy, said, Billy, we got to get out of here. God's missing, and they're going to blame that one on us, too.
So the secret to becoming a millionaire is right under everyone's nose. Now, when you figure...
In this marvelous book that everyone has in their kit, when you pick up and you read this chapter, I want you to keep something in mind. That for 8,000 years, all of the great thinkers, they have all disagreed with one another on many, many different things. But there was only one thing that they were in complete and unanimous agreement with, just one. That there is a power in this universe. And they say that this power, that it animates, it penetrates, and it motivates the entire cosmos. Now, not too long ago on a TV show, Madam O'Hare was being interviewed by Phil Donahue. And Donahue, she's the lady who's the head of the atheist movement. And she denied the existence of any power in this universe. But one night she was being interviewed by Dick Cavett, and Dick Cavett, you see, he didn't get emotionally involved in the idea. He stopped and he started to think, and he was able to reason with her without him losing control. And she said the only good thing about believing in a power is that you get a lot of holidays. And Dick Cavett said to her, you get a holiday every single year, as all atheists do. And she said, when is that? And he said, on April the 1st. Now, if you were to go to the Ark of Apollo at Delphi, you'll see just two words inscribed over that ark at Delphi. And those two words go like this. It said, know thyself. But what do we really know about us and what this power is that animates, flows through us, flows with us? I mean, that really is what we are all about. This power that Bob referred to so much yesterday as spirit. Now, to properly do this exercise, we're going to have to define or try or attempt to define this power. But you see, if you define something, then you place limits on it. So you see, the way we're going to define it will not limit it. As a matter of fact, it will show that it is unlimited and that it is infinite. In a marvelous book that I brought out here with me this morning called Your Invisible Power, Genevieve Behrend, I think, put it together well in this book when she said, to get good results in our life, we must properly understand our relationship to this great impersonal power. Now think about what she said. If we are going to get, she said, the kind of results that we want, we are going to have to understand our relationship to this here great, all-encompassing, this great impersonal power. Now she said, this power is intelligent. You and I, we are intelligent. But she said it is these two intelligences working together that determine the kind of results that we get. Well then, where do we go to find out a little bit more about this power? You see, if you examine it, there's 178 different names to describe it. I mean, we got Baha'i, Vishnu, Krishna, Muhammad, Buddha, and the list goes on and on and on. Rather than talk about the name, why don't we try to define the activity to see how it operates to, with, and through us? Now, you see, if I were in the United States today, and the people that are here from the U.S., you check this out with them. If I were to ask them if they've paid their hydro bill, what kind of response do you think I'm going to get, Brian? They would think they paid their water bill or something. But you see, you know what I mean by hydro bill. But they're not sure what I mean by hydro bill. But isn't it really the very same power? Yes, no. It's the very same power. Well, you see, this power that we're talking about, rather than try to define its name, let's see if we can define the activity. Now, if you're going to find out what it is, you're going to have to go to two sources of reference, the only two that are available. And one is science, and the other is theology. They are the only two sources of reference we can go to if we're going to try to find out anything. Now, you'll find this in the chapter on Let Go and Let God in that book, and I'd suggest that you read it and reread it until you not only gain an intellectual comprehension, but until you can gain what is called an inner spiritual emotional intelligence. You see, the individual that works only with intellectual intelligence, they're really not going to accomplish a whole lot. But the individual that can work with that inner emotional or spiritual intelligence, that individual open themselves up to unlimited possibilities. So if we're going to define this power, and we were to go to the scientist and say, what is this power that animates, penetrates, and motivates the cosmos? Why can I walk and talk? What keeps that wall standing? What about night and day? Why is there such order in these cosmos? How do I know where there's a certain star going to be 1,000 years from now and time it within a fraction of a second? Well, the scientist will tell you there is a power that animates the cosmos, and the scientist will say he will call, or she will call, that power energy. That's the name they use to describe this activity. Now, if you ask, well, what is energy? This is the only thing the scientist can tell you. And remember, the word science means to know. It means organized knowledge. Well, then ask, what is energy? And this is the only thing science can tell you. That energy just is. It is neither created nor destroyed. It is the cause and effect of itself. And it is 100% evenly present in all places at all times. Doesn't that mean right in here, Shirley? Doesn't that mean right in here, Leslie? All places at all times. It didn't say 20% in Scarborough, 50% in Tennessee. 100% evenly present in all places at all times, is almighty and is all powerful. That's fine. You may say, well, I choose not to believe that. Well, you're entitled to believe what you want. But remember this, if you don't believe in something, you're going to fall for anything. So we can cross that one out if you like, but some of you will not. Well, that only leaves you one place left to go. And if you were to go over to theology, and what does theology mean? Well, theology just means one thing, the study of God, at least in this part of the world. In another part, it may be Baha'i, Vishnu, Krishna, Muhammad, Buddha again. It goes on and on and on the list. But if you were to ask the theologian, I just left the scientist, I'm trying to find out, what is this power that animates, penetrates, and motivates the cosmos? Say, I just left down there, and I'm trying to find out a little bit about this power. I mean, you've been told that if you do this, thus, and so, you're going to win, that you have great potential. Have you ever been told that, John? Have you ever been told, honey, if you change your attitude, we'd get along better? And if you change your attitude, you could use your potential and you could be more effective? You ever been told that, Jim? On a daily basis? Sure you have. But you see, the scientist, I went to this scientist and they told me something about this energy. Now you go over to the other side and you ask the theologian. And the theologian will say, yes, there is a power in this universe that keeps everything in working order. But we have a name for the power in this part of the world. What do they call? What is the name they use in this part of the world? So you see, we take that symbol and we put it on the board, and then we ask the theologian, well, tell me, what is, who is, what do you mean by God? Can you give me a definition? And this is the only thing the theologian can tell you, because remember, you cannot limit it. And the theologian will say, there is a power in these cosmos that we call God, and God just is. Neither created nor destroyed. He is the cause and effect of himself, and he is 100% evenly present in all places at all times. Now, it seems to me that I heard that just a few minutes ago. So the only thing that has changed is the name. The activity is the same. And it is clearly demonstrated in the book. You'll find in this book something Werner von Brunn stated. Bob quoted Werner von Brunn. Von Brunn pointed out that science are studying, you could say, the energy and the force around humanity. Theology are studying the force within humanity. And they're eventually going to find out that they are studying one and the same force. You see, when we understand what B. Rand said, it is intelligent, we are intelligent, but it is the working relationship with this power that brings about the kind of results we get, because it can't do for you what it can only do through you. Gosh, I'd give just about anything for a person to get a hold of that or to understand that. That it cannot do for you what it can only do through you. Think about that. Now, would you go over to page 27? We got to move on here. And at the very top of the page, for centuries, there has been a select group of people who are the real thinkers. I mean, we could name many. Edison, Emerson, Thoreau. I mean, there are so many. We could be here all day talking about them. But every one of them, although they had different ideas and different philosophies, this is the one thing they were in complete and unanimous agreement with. These individuals have always known there is a power which permeates, penetrates, and fills the inner spaces of the cosmos, and that everything you see around you is an expression of that power, and so is everything which you feel. The power operates in a very precise manner, which is generally called law. We choose to call it God. Others may speak of it as love, divine mind, divine intelligence, Jehovah, Lord, Father, first cause, as well as a whole host of other synonymous names. But it doesn't really matter what you call it, because the important thing to bear in mind, and anyone of understanding will really admit the fact, is that it is the power that doeth the work. It's not you and I. It's something we work with, but it also works with us. In other words, everything comes from one source, and that source power always flows and works to and through you. And that is you. Stated differently, the image that you have formed can only come to you on the physical plane of your life. In other words, your results. In one way, and that is by law and through faith. Now, the second part of this particular chapter, Bob is going to work with to show just how faith moves this power into action. Keep these two things in mind as we go through it. There are only two words you need to remember as Bob walks you through this. One is order, and the other is movement. Order and movement. And when both of those are functioning together rather than working against one another, we have success, happiness, health, and wealth, which is your birthright. So let's bring on, to take us through the rest of this particular chapter, my good friend and your good friend, Bob Proctor.
All right, Joe. I'd love to get your thoughts on that first segment there.
Mate, this, like I said before in the introduction, we are going deeper now, and this concept is very, very deep. You know, I've been born and raised in the religion, faith, and heard about the word theology, and I did a little bit of lay preaching when I was in my time with the church, and theology is about study about God, and it's they and like they said, there's only two sources that you can reference um, the question to that asks about this energy, this special energy, or this highest power or intelligence, whatever people call it, in their their preference. They call it spirit. They can call it divine, mind, or divine intellectual, or father, or first cause, or law. For me, it's a very, very, like you mentioned before in one of your comments, is intelligence, emotion, because sometimes I always have emotion and impact in my personal life and personal changing. The things that I really want in life, and sometimes I question myself. This is what my purpose is, like, for example, I always want to serve more people in my life, in my journey. And when I found our community and our professional and growing as in the personal development, I realized that we have a calling in this world, and everyone have a different goals. But I think one of the main purpose call of human being is to serve other peoples, and I think that power or that energy is within us, and with my background in religion side, I call it God. And and sometimes I kind of question my purpose in life, but I get to a state that I realize that God work in a mystery ways within me, so that I can, like a sun ray to other people. So there is a good in me, but God work within me so that I can express it to other people. And is this energy or this power is very, very amazing, because sometimes we can be happy, sometimes we're going to be sad, sometimes we're going to be emotionally maybe drained, maybe emotionally impact. But I think it's come down to how we respond to that energy that work within us. We can use that energy to share good things with others, or we can use that energy to kind of diminish your dream, my dream, or my vision to the future. It's funny because this week I kind of like in a battle, emotionally battle with myself. Just a few things that I need to work on it, and I just kind of question, what I'm going to do this year that I'm going to make more impact with my friends, with my family, with my team, business partners, and this concept really, really wake me up to say, hey, there's a thing called let go and let God, because you always have that spirit with you when you were born to this world. You just need to listen. You just need to let go sometime of your emotional, and just let that energy take part of your life and let that express in its own way, and you will amaze how it will turn up in your life.
Interesting, Joey. Just when you were talking there, a thought just popped into my mind. I was just writing it down, and that was that your energy goes where your mind flows. And that makes so much sense. It just does exactly what you're talking about. And look, if your energy is on the negative, on worry or on stress or anything else like that, that's where your mind is going to go. And that's where your energy, if you're putting your energy into those thoughts and feelings, and sometimes, that you were talking about emotional stuff, and sometimes you're feeling it in here, which means it's in the heart. Do you know what I mean? Which means it's literally coming from God sometimes. Do you know what I mean? put it that way. So those feelings, they're a great kind of barometer of how you're thinking. You know, you can just measure it that way. And I put a comment in the chat there that thought is the only power. Now, this isn't my comment. This comes from The Science of Getting Rich. And I love this book. You know, like if you're thinking of getting something to read, this is a really short read, maybe 3 hours long. Get the audio version, set it to 2 times speed and listen to this, and then listen to it again, and then listen to it again. This is an amazing book. You know, thought is the only power which can produce tangible riches from the formless substance. That's what you're talking about, Joe. The stuff from which all things are made is a substance which thinks. And a thought of form in this substance produces the form. Like this stuff is, you know, everything that John Canary is talking about there is linked in that sentence. Do you know what I mean? And everything you were talking about is linked in that sentence. You know, like I'm not saying that you can read the Science of Getting Rich and understand that. I don't think you can. I think it takes study on that. Do you know? And one thing I'd like to know, Joe, is that book by, you know, Wallace D. Wattles was written in the early 1900s. How the hell do we not think like that anymore? He's talking about stuff like that. We wouldn't even contemplate something like this today. You know, like what did they know back then that we're not being taught now? Like it's unbelievable, this stuff. It is. You know, so anyway, listen, it gets me fired up, Joe. Tell you.
Yeah. And like they said about science and theology, they define energy is just that is.
Yes.
You know, that thinking was there before and will be here present and will be in the future. You know, that principle and that fundamental basic of thinking, it will be last for the end of the world. So it's very, very powerful. And you know,
powerful.
I'm glad you said that. And that book you mentioned, if you're watching this, The Sign of Getting Rich, doing things in a certain way, you know, it will open your mind to see different things, you know, in your journey.
Yeah,
read it,
listen
to it.
In fact, we're studying it. It's a book that we're studying, actually. We're starting to study it now. Tomorrow, we've got a call tomorrow. I'll just mention this now. So if you're interested in that book, The Science of Getting Rich, and you want to know more about it, there's a call tomorrow. In fact, you can go here to learn more about it. So if you go to this website, risethrive.global, you can register there. Or, of course, you can register with this Zoom link here, zoom.to.link/Mondays. And we're actually going to be starting that. I think it's Marnie and is it Vickers? I think Marnie and Vickers are going to be covering that book, The Science of Getting Rich. It's probably going to be over a couple of weeks. But you'll get, you know, like it's just a great book. It's just a great book. I should really put the link in the description. I'll probably put it in there for next week. But it's definitely worthwhile. It's worthwhile trying to understand that. But look, you're invited to join us on that webinar on Mondays. And of course, you can find out more on this website, risethrive.global. This is part of an organization that Joye are involved in. And it's really about helping people. Do you know what I mean? It's really no more complicated than that. You know, look, if you want to change some things in your life, you've got to change some things in your life. And that would be a good place to start. And of course, believe it or not, interestingly enough, we're going through Bob Proctor's stuff now. Linda Proctor, you know, is behind that risethrive.global. And we're fortunate to be good friends with Linda. You know, we get to speak with her every week. So, and get to hear from her. Now, Linda is such a smart lady. I mean, she is seriously smart. You know, when she talks, you know, she just blows me away. Do you know what I mean? I just love it. I love it. I really do. I'll be saying tomorrow, you know, and in fact, you know, my wife Kate was listening along to the call last week, and Kate loves the calls. Do you know what I mean? She was saying, oh my God, they've really kind of leveled up. Do you know what I mean? On the calls, you know, so much more informative and open to everybody. So look, I would encourage anybody, if you're watching this now or even on the replay, these calls are every Monday night, but go to this website, risethrive.global. And if you're downloading the little black book or any information, it's going to ask you, where did you hear about us? Just put Joey and Mick in the comments and they'll know where you came from. But look, brilliant. Right, we better get back to it, Joe, will we?
Yep.
me show you how we do stuff around here.
Actually, my department uses Monday.com, so I'm good.
Work management.
Sylvia Vanderhook with our company, she's a vice president with our company, gave me a bumper sticker here a couple of weeks ago. And it said, "It's too bad ignorance isn't painful." And you know, that's so true. In covering this particular subject, you're hitting on probably one of the most important things that anyone can study. And yet very few people study it in any depth with respect to application in the various areas of their life. John was quoting Werner von Braun, the late Dr. von Braun. He said one time, now keep in mind this was a scientist. He is considered by many as the father of the space program. And he said after years of studying the spectacular mysteries of the cosmos, he was led into a firm belief in the existence of God. And he pointed out that science and religion were not antagonistic. He said, on the contrary, they are sisters. Well, one studies the forces of nature outside of us, the other studies the force within us. John made reference to that. He was talking about the atheist. I heard a cute little story one time where the guy said he always felt sorry for the atheist. He said when they die, they said they're all dressed up and they got nowhere to go. And now, I have seen in my own life and a number of other people's lives, some spectacular things take place when a person grasps this idea. Yesterday, I pointed out that one of our great problems was that we thought we were physical beings. And of course, we're not. If we were just physical, then there would be a limit to what we could do. There's a limit to what that table can hold. You start piling weight on that table, and you're going to get to a point where the table's just going to crush under the weight. It's like the story of the camel and the straw. You put too much straw on the camel's back, and you get to a point, you just put one straw on too many, and that's the straw that breaks the camel's back. We are spiritual beings living in physical bodies. Now, you and I have an intellect, and through the proper use of the intellect, we can do wonderful things in our life. Now, we used a drawing yesterday and in the previous lesson, and I'd like to suggest that you come back and focus your attention on this drawing again. Now, remember we were talking about the mind. We have no difficulty getting an image of a person's body. We see our own every day. We see it reflecting back from the mirror. Every time we look at someone else, we see their body. Well, the problem we have is that we have no image for the mind. Well, of course, in the previous lesson, we gave you one. And we said, let this represent the mind. And then we pointed out to let this represent the body. And we took and we divided this, and we said this actually is the creative or the start of all creation in our life, this part of our personality. Because as this power flows into us, we can do whatever we choose with it. And of course, we can build a negative concept or we can build a positive concept, but we have the choice of what we're going to build. Now, ask yourself if you could have anything you want and it starts in the form of an image, what would you start imaging? Because that's really the name of the game. It's name it and claim it. Now, this works both on a negative as well as a positive basis. Because as you take this image, you can accept it, you can reject it as the images come into our mind. We can do anything we want with them. We do not have to get emotionally involved with them. Now, this part is the spiritual side of our personality. This side of us has no ability to reject an idea. It just accepts whatever comes into it and instantly and automatically moves the body into that vibration. In other words, the image begins to move into form. Now, as we go on in the upcoming lessons, we're going to talk about more how that happens through vibration and through attraction. I want to share something with you, a couple of stories, and then one personal experience. I was in Jackson, Mississippi back in 1977. I had gone into Jackson to do a seminar, and as I was waiting for my bags to come down the chute, this gentleman came over and he shook hands with me and introduced himself. He told me his name was MC Duncan and he was from Oklahoma City. He was the president of Oklahoma Life. And he said, you know, I've been listening to you all week and I've been watching you all week. And I said, well, that's interesting. Where was I? And he just laughed, and he had been listening to cassettes and watching the videos. And as fate would have it, we were there for different reasons, but we were both going to the same hotel. So we shared a cab. We went over to the hotel. We checked in at the registration desk. And then we just wandered over in the foyer and sat down and started chatting. Now, you're going to find that everyone that starts to study themselves, they become great readers. They always want to get into good books because they want to find out more about the subject. It's so fascinating. Well, he and I got talking about the various books that we liked. And we had read many of the same books. And I asked him, I said, have you ever read any of Robert Russell's books? And he said, no, he hadn't. Well, I had an entire set of them. I think there were 8 of them. I had them in my briefcase. Now, I had been reading these books. I'd give them away here and there. And I just picked up a new set prior to leaving town, and I put them in my briefcase. So I took them out and I gave them to him. And he looked at me a little strange, and he said, well, let me pay you for them. And I said, no. I said, don't pay me for them. I said, you just take them and enjoy them. And, you know, I just smiled, and I said, you know that you can never give anything away. It always comes back. In fact, pressed down and running over. I said, that's the rules. And he laughed, and he said, yes, I know. Well, when I got back to Chicago, to my office, I began to get inundated with great material from MC Duncan. And the first thing he sent me was this transcript of a minister's sermon that was preached on November the 21st, 1976. Now, I received this on the 3rd of March, 1977. So the sermon was only a couple of months old. It was delivered by a Reverend Norman Neves at the Church of the Servant in Oklahoma City. And MC Duncan wrote here, insist upon miracles today. Here he wrote, Bob, first 4 paragraphs, great story about wrong thinking, etc., etc. Best regards, MC Duncan. Now, this is a classic. It really is. Keep in mind, this is how a minister is starting the sermon in Oklahoma City. He began by saying, I read a story in the paper the other day that not only caught my attention, but that continued to hold it the further I read. It was a story of a railway employee somewhere in Kansas who accidentally locked himself into a refrigerator car and then who wasn't able to escape. Perhaps you read the story also and know what I mean when I say it continued to hold my attention. Now, he said apparently this man had banged and banged on the side of the car to attract someone's attention, but apparently also no one heard him. So he finally gave up and resigned himself to his fate. Sometime during the night, as he felt his body becoming numb, he began to scribble some sentences on the wall of the car. Sentences recording some of his last sensations as he moved closer and closer to death. The first sentence said, I'm becoming colder. The second sentence, a little bit further down, said, still colder. Nothing to do but wait. Then it said, I'm slowly freezing to death. Half asleep now, I can hardly write. And then down at the bottom, this sentence which said, these may be my last words, which in fact they were. When the railroad car was opened the following day, they found him dead. But let me tell you something that's really startling about this story. The freezing apparatus on the car had been malfunctioning. It had not been operating properly for several days. And believe it or not, the temperature hadn't gotten below 49 degrees during the entire night that he was there. In other words, this man had become the victim of his own illusion. He had presumed that his time had come and his life is over, when in fact, there was no need of that presumption at all. And so, even though the temperature had never fallen below 49 degrees, this man died nevertheless and isn't here to enjoy himself today. Neves went on to point out, he said, there's a lot of us that do that with our lives, aren't there? We misread the signs of our predicaments. We presume that things are worse than they really are. And so, like that man, we too become the victim of our own illusion. We die, if you will, even though the temperature of our circumstance never even gets close to freezing. Now, you see, this man used his reasoning factor, and he used it incorrectly. He let what he thought were circumstances control his thinking. That's the image he put in, and that's exactly what he got. Do you think maybe that that's what Moses was talking about when he talked about that reasoning factor? When he said, behold, today I lay before you both a blessing and a curse.
Come on, Joe. I want to hear what you've got to say, especially about being, a spiritual being in a physical body. We've got that intellect. I love that story. I think we touched on this, at the very beginning. Don't forget you're on mute at the moment still. But we talked about this in the beginning, the power of the mind and how the mind can almost be a prison. And how do you escape a prison if you don't know you're even in one? This stuff is so deep. Do you know what I mean? Let me know your thoughts.
Absolutely. I was on a call yesterday with another platform that I'm actually really involved.
You cheating on me?
Oh, no. It's called a momentum, momentum workshop.
Yeah,
And
thanks, by the way, for adding me to those other groups. Appreciate it.
No, you're more than welcome. Yeah, and one of the person who leading the workshop talk about awareness. Awareness is the key for success. Awareness is the key to change. And I think what Bob talking about it remind me, because this person, he tell about the person who was locked up in the freezer, and even though the temperature control it's malfunction and the temperature won't be it's not cold enough to kill someone, but because his awareness, his thinking, his mind thinking this place he was in, it's cold and he's gonna die because no one come and open up the door. It was so sad, but at the same time it's so how our mind can, and because our mind have the reason factors and intelligent factors and other factors that we have in our mind, and like Bob said, sometimes when we don't use our mind properly, it can lead us to a negative result, but when we use our mind properly and our reason factors, it can change the situation, change the solution for or the problem for us. So it's very
Joey, that is the problem, isn't it? Though, if you believe something to be true, it doesn't have to be true. But if you believe it to be true, then it is. It is for you. And that's what, so you have this thought in your mind, you believe it to be true, and then it's created. The universe gives it to you, whether you want to call it the universe, God, the Holy Spirit, the one consciousness, the conscious mind, whatever we want to call it. You get what you think about. But if your thinking's not right, if you're not using that reason, those faculties, to be honest, I hate to say it, but you could be properly screwed, right? And you're doing it to yourself. That's even worse.
It's very sad, we all caught up in that situation sometime, and that's why talk about myself. Sometimes I double I kind of doubt of what my mission is, my visionary is. I kind of like a second question my goal is. But when I lose the focus, and I think one of my mentor, Eric Worre, sent a post today. Focus. You that little word, even that little word, it's kind of bring me back to align with what my purpose in life. It's kind of remind me, the way you're thinking, it can change the way your direction is you're going to, if you don't be careful. So for me, it's the awareness and using those faculty or those factor element in our brain, reason, intellectual, other faculty. When you're using properly, it will change the situation from seeing yourself as a loser, seeing yourself as a maybe overweight, seeing yourself uh, not going to have the financial success that you want to become, or the relationship that you want to enjoy or have in life. So it's all about what you're thinking.
Do you
And
know, Joe, that brings us right back to where it all started. What you were talking about there. It brings us right the way back to the very beginning of this session, and that is to write down exactly the person that you want to become, and be very clear about that. How much money do you want to have in the bank? Exactly. How much money do you want to be earning? How do you want to look and feel? And write it down in the present tense. You've got to experience it like you've already got it. And in fact, I was listening to The Secret. I think I was telling you about that. Did I send you a copy of the movie?
yes,
I
you
think I
did.
might
You
have.
did.
I love
Yep.
it.
Thank you.
And in that, and look, that is something. Once we get through this, we'll probably cover The Secret, and then once we've done The Secret, I think we'll do Think and Grow Rich, or Not Think and Grow Rich, or maybe even The Science of Getting Rich. There's just so much to cover, and all of these things are all tied together. But in The Secret, it was talking about this universal catalog, and you just kind of pick what you want from it and know that it's going to come to you. And that's the beauty of what Bob's talking about, and what John Canary's talking about, and what you've been talking about, is just knowing that you can have what you want. If you apply these laws, and they are laws. Are they spiritual laws? They're laws of the universe, laws of nature, if you like, and you get what you think about. That guy in the car got what he thought about. He thought he was going to die, and that's what happened, but it never even got cold enough to die. In fact, that reminds me of the story. Where was this story? I can't remember. The Millionaire Maker. Can't remember his name. And he was telling a story about how years and years ago, like maybe 150 years ago, maybe not even that long ago, that when a condemned man, this is in America, when a condemned man was sentenced to death, the medical society could take that person, to perform experiments on them. And what they did was, the experiment they conducted was, they took 6 or 7 of these people who were condemned for death, and they, one by one, they literally strapped them to a table, and they said, look, we're going to drain all the blood from your body. And then they would blindfold them, and then using a pin, they would stick a pin in their arm, and a jug of water, they would drip water into another bucket, and they would tell that person that the blood was leaving their body, and they were getting weaker and weaker and weaker. And they performed this over several people. Every one of them died without losing one drop of blood. How does that happen? Only in here. In here. That stuff, so look, positive or negative, we have the choice, right?
Yeah.
It's up to you. All right, give me your final thoughts, then we'll play out.
My final thought is just, it's to ask the audience. You can write a description of the person you want to become. And like my friend Mike said, you can choose whatever you want to become. And you can write it in a present tense. You can start it like with Bob said. I am so grateful. I am happy and grateful that I am, for me, I think Mike is agree. I am so happy and grateful that I am happy, healthy, and wealthy. I'll leave it with it. So thank you very much, Mike. I really appreciate your time. And also, yeah, if you're watching this or watching the replay, I just remind you, we are so proud of you. You are here, you are watching this because you are looking for something. And if you're looking for something in life, we all looking for something in life. Maybe we would help you. Maybe we could direct you to the right community, to a book for you to get started your journey. And if you're watching this like we share, you can sit down with a piece of paper in a quiet place and write exactly the person you want to become. Because there's a power in you, within you, that work through within you to achieve that. And it's present everywhere in the world, no matter Ireland, Australia, United States. That power, that spirit, or myself, I call it God, is everywhere. And it's there to guide you, to help you, to enlighten you, to become the best version of yourself in 2024. Thank you very much.
Love it, Joey.
You see, we are created in a magnificent vibration, in an absolutely magnificent vibration. Born risk takers. Free. That conditioning takes place after birth. You can change it. It takes guts. It takes goals. Now, do you know something? You're sitting there watching this and you're thinking, my God, I'm going to change something. Now we say, keep reminding yourself that you have tremendous reservoirs of potential within you, and therefore you are quite capable of doing anything you set your mind to. You really can. I don't care what the cynics tell you. Quit listening to some of your peers. Now all you must do is figure out how you can do it, not whether you can or not. When are you going to do it? When are you going to do it? You've got to create a sense of urgency. I'm going to do it right now.
If you can see it, you can do it. But the beautiful truth is you can do anything. We got to know there is a place. There is a specific frequency. And if you get on that frequency, you're going to attract what you need to you. This is what it's all about. Why have you been endowed with such awesome powers? If you'll make a committed decision, this I'm going to do. And you don't have to know how. You do not have to know how. The second you make the committed decision, you flip your brain onto the frequency that you have to be on to attract what you have to attract to manifest the thing that you want. If you can see it, you can do it. It's got to be something you want. Wants come from inside. Act like you're already there. Walk, talk, speak, live like you're already there. Don't set a small goal. Don't set something that doesn't really wind your step. Set it so big it jazzes you. It really gets you going. When something of a very high nature resonates with the very high side of you, you'll know it. You'll know it. You will feel it. Feeling is conscious awareness of vibration. The only prerequisite, do you want it? Not do you need it, not could you do it. The only prerequisite is, do you want it? Take the lid off your marvelous mind and dream. For goodness sake, give yourself the right to do that. Get your analytical mind out of the way. Put it in your pocket for a while. All you're doing is exploring, daydreaming. What did Lawrence say? All men dream, but not equally. Those who dream by night in the dusty recesses of their mind waken the day to find that it was vanity. But the dreamers of the day are dangerous men, for they may act their dream with open eyes to make it possible. This I did.